one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Everyone, this is a special meeting, so we only have one thing on the agenda. The road concerning Billings County, Golden Valley County, and so a little bit of etiquette. We're recording this. It's recorded over there too. And then we'd like, if the public wants to speak, to come up to the podium so that then everyone can hear and we can get the recording recorded. So I guess we'll start off with the meeting as we have been in discussion with Golden Valley County, Billings County on possibly creating a road north of Buffalo Gap that would meet up with part of West River Road in Billings County and then continue north on the road that's there. I guess we have some maps out here, and the purpose of the meeting is to get the counties together and see if this is a feasible joint venture, I guess if that's what we want to call it, as the road is kind of maybe halfway in Golden Valley and halfway in Billings County. And if we get some, we want to hear a little bit of, I guess, some opinions from our six here, I guess, first of all, and then we'll maybe open it up to the public. So I guess I don't know exactly. Does someone want to start introducing something? I'm not the greatest at introducing it, but I like this map that we have, and it shows we've had two people on committee. We've had Rory and Mr. Haig here on, and let me see, Pat and Pete met out there on the site. I don't know, did the Forest Service, are they here today, or?
Yes, they are.
Okay. And did you meet out there too? I don't know.
Misty's on her way too.
Okay.
She's on her way.
Park. So we've had just a little bit of preliminary investigation, I guess, if that's what you want to call it. And this is kind of the short of a picture of what it might look like, the road, where it's going to go. A couple things of discussion is going to be, are we going to possibly move forward with it? Are we going to get a engineer report from someone for later discussion? And so this is just the beginning meeting. So, yeah. Adam, do you want to add?
I know it would, when everybody called it West River Road North, but it went through the Myers Ranch, when that, being on public property, got closed to the public, there was a lot of discussion of what are the options to do. What are the options, rather than if somebody wanted to go north, if Billings County wanted to get to your part of the county on that side of the river, you'd have to go all the way over and up the Campbell Sump exit and come around. And that's for Forest Service, for everybody, that's a long haul. So this was my understanding that there was a proposal years ago, not necessarily this route, but to develop a better road from Buffalo Gap up into that area. And this kind of came basically out of necessity, from my understanding. And I think it's something that seriously, the Golden Valley County seriously wants to look at. We would like to have access up into that area quickly off the interstate for the people that need to get out of the area or up into the area, and it would definitely benefit Billings County. And looking at the proposed options, whether it be basically half and half in Billings, half in Golden Valley, that would benefit financially both sides. So we wouldn't have to put so much into a 4-mile road as an individual. So I wasn't on the committee, but I think the ones that met and discussed it came up with a decent route, but we're going to have a lot more looking into it to decide if that's the right route to go for the topography or anything like that. But I can think, from the conversations that we've had as Golden Valley County, it's something that we definitely want to look into.
Okay.
We want to move forward with the feasibility.
Yep.
Any other commissioners?
You guys wanna,
Yeah, when Pete and Pat and myself met up there, all we could do was go on the south end and look north, and go on the north end and look south. We didn't know exactly in between. We didn't have our Kenny runners on to go do it. So, but the way it's looking, if everything pans out, it's a nice, basically straight route, but until we get somebody to get in there and go through it and come back to us and say, hey, we gotta move it this way because of a draw, or that way, we just don't know in between. But it looks good. It looks like a good feasible route. We were with Foley on it because he met us up there that day on the hill, and his opinion was the same as our opinion. I just think it's a good deal, and I think Billings County is, myself, on board with this 100% to do something and get something going sooner than later. So, Pete, do you have anything?
Yeah, I guess, the way we look at it now, for traffic to come from the West River Road exit off the interstate, it's 30-some miles to go around to get to the petrified forest. And that encompasses a lot of miles of our road, as well as the ones in Billings County. Way back in the early 2000s, both counties had agreed back then, because we had meetings early on with Roger, and back then it was determined that that was a private road, but over time he had let the general public utilize it without, objecting to them. But we had proposed that that would be our federal highway route, was going through Buffalo Gap, and at the time it made a lot of sense because we have the Buffalo Gap campground, we have Ole's concessionary business at there, and gave better access to the Mattahay Trail. And as time has gone on with all the events going on the Mattahay Trail now, there's a lot of influx of traffic that's going through on this private ranch. And that was a concern of theirs, and that's part of the reason why this probably got pushed forward. My thoughts always, all along, have been, what makes more sense than having a public road on public land? Why should the private sector bear that burden? This is a more direct route. Back in the early 2000s, we had looked at going up through the old road. If you look at the one map on the old route, that is a public road. The township has kind of backed away from some of the maintenance on it. Some of that falls to the private land ownership, and it is a longer route. At the time, that things changed hands probably in the last 25 years, at least 5 different times, different ownerships. And now the present landowner, would just soon not see that kind of traffic on that road. This route that we're proposing would be all on public land. It wouldn't impact the private land so much. Granted, it will be a little bit of impact maybe on some of the permittees, but through the building of that project, that can be done and handled with cattle guards and whatnot. So I think it really would be less impact, directly on anybody's place other than the Buffalo Gap guest ranch, but right now they've got that traffic. And now that this route has been changed, there's a lot more access. I mean, on that road, I've met tour buses on that road trying to get to the Painted Canyon, or not Painted Canyon, Petrified Forest. And a more direct route, this would basically be about 6 or so miles from the interstate versus 30. And to me, it just makes sense. when we had looked at it, we kind of wanted to proceed. I think the general consensus of both counties was to proceed right away, but I felt, from my perspective, it's not proposed in my budget yet. So it's gonna require a budget amendment to be able to spend funds to proceed with this project. And so I thought it was prudent that we have this meeting. We kind of approach this in cooperation and pick one engineering firm to do the project, and we're not working against each other. It just streamlines the whole project. People might ask, why aren't we waiting and doing federal aid? Well, that's gonna take a long time, and the way the Forest Highway Program is no longer in existence, so it's now the Federal Lands Access Program. And it's a lot more competitive. Back when we had the Forest Highway Program, we had only 4 counties that shared in that funding, and we got an allocation annually. So about every 3rd year, you could build up enough funds to do a project. Now, we're competing with 40 some counties in North Dakota alone, plus regionally, to get approved for a project. And so it's pretty hard to get one. This probably would fall in those guidelines pretty well, but I really think we need to get it done sooner than later. That's not saying we'd get approved, and that process will be drug out probably 2 more years. Another thing that we need to probably address in this meeting, or mention it, or get the word out there, is that with the Forest Service, getting the easement is one thing. We gotta go through all the environmental things, but we're not using federal aid if we're all on the same page. We can circumvent some of that timeline, because with the DOT, you're scheduled on a timeline. So NEPA has to be done at this point in the process, and everything has to be approved at the state and then back to us and everything. We have more direct control over when we proceed once we get those environmental clearances done. Early on, Forest Service indicated there was no inventoried environmental concerns on this route that they have inventoried. When we do the public scoping, and we will have to survey it and whatnot ourselves, something may come up, and so alignments may have to be tweaked if something shows up, but right now we're not aware of anything. One other deal with the Forest Service is we have the Knudsen Creek Road, which this one will end at, this project. That's under a Schedule B maintenance agreement in our county. And under Schedule B, it's basically up to the Forest Service or special use permitted through the oil companies to do the maintenance on it. And to be honest, the oil companies have not done a good job of maintaining it. So the general public is traveling up and down that road. And I would propose that we either get that on a Schedule A agreement, or in the past, the Forest Service has, if we are not in a hurry to get the easements from them, they will convey an easement to us and use their personnel, or they have in the past anyway. They can free them up and give them something to do when they have all these people on during summer, and survey that route, and they have given us those easements without any charge, as long as we can work in their time frame. And I think that's another issue down the road further, just to tie in later with this project, and it may qualify for federal lands access funding at a future date when we have more time to apply and see if we can get approved by it. And that's a pretty good program if you can get it accepted in there and bring that road up to a little higher standard. But as it sits now in a Schedule B agreement, we really can't go in there and improve anything and do maintenance on a culvert or things of that nature without Forest Service approval. So that's something we need to meet with them and see if they concur with that and work with us. Other than that, I guess I don't have a lot other than that to say. You know, if questions come up, I'll probably think of something else if you wanna have me address it. I guess I've got a lot of experience working with projects over the years, so I kind of know how to proceed with the engineers, and I'm familiar with, you know, what their requirements are and whatnot. So I guess with that, somebody else.
Thank you, Pete. That was a good kind of history. Does someone else want to, I want to let the public come in after we've discussed what we want to discuss, and then, so is there someone else, Steve, or you guys?
Well, I would just note that the old road that was talked about, had we ever run that? Is what the difference in mileage, you know, the 4 miles to add to it versus just looking at this map, it has to be almost double.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
with the extra crossings and whatnot.
Yeah.
So cost-wise to the county would be a lot better with this new route than continuing with that old plan from, what, 25 years ago roughly.
Depending on the exact alignment, I think we can eliminate 1 or 2 creek crossings where the old proposed route had several creek crossings.
Okay, well, as far as the funding on both counties, let's discuss that briefly. Getting, like you said, some federal dollars or some flex funding or whatever out there, that's a pretty long, we all know that's a pretty 5, 6, 8 year deal before we're gonna receive anything. And so I think we're gonna need to look at it as other avenues of our, I guess, each other's own funding. I don't know how legal it is to do it together, but we need to address that a little bit too, with our state's attorneys and whoever with the rules. And so, does anyone have any, I mean, I'm for doing this as one commissioner also. I feel that this road needs to get made, get it looked at for sure by engineers, Forest Service, because they're the ones that we're going to be dealing with, and then come back to another meeting. I mean, I think that's the long or the short of it right now, in the immediate. And then we start in, but you know, the budget's still going to be there too. So yeah. We have those 2 main items to, I mean, are we in agreement to possibly doing this, our team?
Yeah, I mean, as long as we're paying for our portion, I don't have a problem with it.
Okay. Yeah, me too. So how about you guys?
I think so.
When Adam's done, I'll weigh in on that from our legal perspective.
When it comes to the funding, yep, that's true. That's primary. You can't do any project without funding. But the trick is we don't know what it would cost without having an engineer look at it and see what creek crossings are there, how many bridges, how many culverts, what kind of material needs to be used to fill in gullies or whatever to physically build the road. We don't know. We got an idea of what, you know, ballpark figures of what other roads have cost and what it would cost to build it, but without some of that, it's hard to say exactly how much funding we'd kind of need without some preliminary stuff. Yeah, like you said, going after federal funding and whatnot can take years if you get approved. But I think there are some preliminary things that we could look at to come up with some ideas of what it would cost. if this is something that we want to move forward with in the future. But, yeah.
Sure. So I guess from Golden Valley County's perspective legally, I think what I would envision that transpires out of this meeting today is that there's some sort of joint consensus that both counties are in agreement to move forward with doing some sort of initial proposal. And I think what the first step in that process needs to happen is there needs to be some sort of agreement between the counties as to how you're going to select an engineering firm that's going to assist you with this. If you're going to put out an RFP and then have them submit, and as part of that RFP or that initial conversation with engineering firms, there's a firm understanding that the rules and regulations with regard to the Forest Service and government acquirement of property and easements is going to be critical in their involvement to make sure that we are in compliance with that. This is a much different situation if we were going out to select easements from private property owners. It's a whole nother ballgame when you're dealing with the federal government. So that is going to be an extra level of complexity that both counties are going to need help navigating, and that hopefully can be done in conjunction with not only the counties, but the engineering firms that hopefully have some experience in working with that. Also with the Forest Service as well. I think you guys need to get preliminary estimates. You're going to need to know the cost of improvement. You're going to need to know all of those things. And then once we have that information, we come back and we say, okay, here's the amount that we can allocate to Golden Valley County. Here's the amount that would be allocated to Billings County. And then we would put together some sort of joint powers agreement or memorandum of understanding between the two counties as to who's going to be responsible for what's the cost allocation between the counties. Yeah. All of those things would be included in that agreement. But I think the interesting part of this is, like I said, we're dealing with one entity that has to give us an easement or dedicate land to us. That happens to be the federal government. So there are going to be a lot of hoops that I think are going to have to be jumped through in order to make that happen, just from an administrative end of things. But I think today the goal should be, yes, both counties are in agreement. Let's move forward with getting some sort of RFP out for an engineering firm and get somebody selected so that you guys can move forward with the preliminary design and start working with the Forest Service to see if this is a feasible option. Because if the answer is no right away, that the Forest Service isn't going to play ball, then the next question is, what do we do? Do we want to explore other options? Are there other routes possible that might be an option? But we don't have enough information yet at this point to make any official decisions other than the fact that both counties are in agreement, and let's take the next step.
Misty Hayes, she sent me a text at the beginning of the meeting. She's going to try to make it, but is there somebody else from the Forest Service here? There isn't, is there? Okay. From conversations, and I can't speak for her, but the indication that she gave us during some meetings and talking with her is that at a local level, now obviously that's not policy because of how that works, but at the local level, they're in favor of doing a road, figuring out where the best path would be, and at the local level, they're on board with this. They want a quicker route for all of their stuff up there. So
it was stated at this meeting also,
yeah,
by her. So yes. So I guess if we're in agreement, do we this RFP, or do we need to proceed with that first, or to get an estimate out there? Because I feel that the estimate and getting the Forest Service involved has to come first, right? Is that what we?
I think, in my opinion, and I'm just looking at how we normally handle other projects, like say in Dickinson, we typically bring an engineering firm on first so that they can look at everything from every angle and be able to analyze that. And then also too, you have some entity that can communicate with those other entities and make sure that all bases are covered. Because they're going to look at it from a perspective of being able to analyze it and get you the appropriate estimates and working with the Forest Service. So my recommendation would be is that you get an engineering firm on board first that can help you navigate those assets or those issues, and then come back to the drawing board, because they're going to be able to get you the estimates. They're going to be able to get all of those things. And you have one organization that's working on behalf of both counties that can do that. And in conjunction with that, perhaps Golden Valley County has a representative, maybe that's Pete, that works with that, and then Billings County also has someone that they designate that works with them too, so that there's county involvement there as well.
Okay. So, for clarification, you guys are having an official meeting, right? And we're having an official meeting.
Yep.
So we can each make our own motion.
Yep.
To move
Yep.
forward with something.
Yep.
Okay? So, is that the next step? Does everyone agree?
I would say that if both counties are on board with it, then both counties would make a respective motion to engage and put out an RFP for engineering services to explore the option of this proposed route. And then, of course, with that being said, if the next step would be is, do the counties want to split the cost of those engineering services, or how is that going to work? That would be the next step. I don't want any surprises down the road as to how that's going to be allocated from a funding perspective.
Well, that'd be the trick, is splitting the cost of the engineer, because I feel that, personally, I feel that it'd be most convenient, most prudent, to have one engineer, like you had mentioned, have one engineer working with both counties, so you're not splitting between two different engineering firms. And in that process, this route, we've got two different maps that have them slightly different, but in the process of going through their findings and whatnot, they could find where this route needs to take a different path. And so it could change up how many feet of road are in each county. And so that could determine, in my view, and correct me if I'm wrong, but that could be determined what share of the road is each county. So that, if we go at it that way, that could determine what share of the engineering financial responsibility is each county.
Yeah, we could, if 75% of the road is in Billings County and 25% is in Golden Valley County, I'm just using those numbers.
Yeah.
That could be a way to justify the allocation of cost. But again, I agree with Adam, you're not going to know that until you have numbers.
Yeah.
So for purposes of, initial conversations with cost and things like that, because you want to make sure you get your engineers paid, those costs could be split accordingly and then reevaluated at the very end based upon the allocation of ownership of the road.
Looking at the maps where they stand, it's roughly 50-50. And I think because we're both 50% of being interested in this road, just for the initial cost, we could split the engineering 50-50 until we figure out exactly how many yards of each road it is. Mm-hmm. So
I think
that's what my feeling would be. So to move forward with the interest to at least start forward on this, each county, my understanding, each county would have to, the commissioners would have to have a motion, a second, and a vote on whether we are going to go through with a project like this at the meeting.
Preliminary estimates.
To get the preliminary estimates and then going from there.
And start the RFP process for selecting an engineer to assist you.
Okay. That process, I'm trying to figure out the best way to do that, to try to move something forward today.
I don't know, so could we make the motion to have someone do it today what's the RFP mean?
So,
do we have to go through that? Can we just pick one?
Considering the scope and the nature of the project, I would recommend you do an RFP just because it's a little bit more complex than just normal right-of-way acquisition. But also you're going to be able to get an understanding of what the cost is going to be for the engineer as well. And you also might want to be looking at the specific, each engineering firm might specialize in something, or each engineering firm might have particular know-how in a certain area, and one might have more familiarity with more service acquisition than another. So I think you need to take that into consideration for expertise as well. I'm sure they're all qualified, but I think it gives you guys an opportunity to review that and make an educated decision on who you're going to select. And quite frankly, it makes it more equitable and fair to the engineering firm, so they each get an opportunity to present you a proposal. That you're not just selecting someone, and again, it's equitable and it's more fair. And you're using public funds to do it, so again, I think that might be something to consider. I think you could also set timelines as far as when you would want to have that RFP responded to. We can work, with something, to get something drafted up, you get it published, you get a deadline submission, today is the 17th, you might be looking at, early part of March or even mid-March to get something back. And then you guys can meet jointly and go through those and select someone at that point based on qualifications and experience.
I think that, I don't know about Billings County, but I know Golden Valley County, we discussed this in one of our meeting, and I can't remember which one it was, I'd have to look back at the minutes. And we voted on whether we wanted to go through looking at this road and proceed to see if it is viable and whatnot. And that's when we assigned Rory to have the kind of basically a little subcommittee with some Billings County, with the road department, to go out and look. So to make that more official at this meeting, so we can get that part out of the way, for Gold Valley County, I'd entertain a motion to proceed with this project and get an RFP and engage with Billings County to see what about this road project to move it forward.
And I think that's important for the public is, obviously this is not saying that both counties are going to go forward.
Yeah.
This is just preliminary. This is nothing more than that.
Let me back up a minute before. Should we have public comment before we?
Totally up to you, gentlemen. I think that the kind of the thought process is that you would. There will be, throughout this process, there's always going to be opportunity for public comment.
Oh, yes.
Specifically when you do get an official proposal, obviously there's going to be other subsequent meetings to this one, but I think the purpose of this is just to get a consensus. Are we both going in the same direction? And if we are, what's the first step? And I think the first step is getting an engineering firm on board.
That's what I was asking. Is it proper to have the public comment before we make that, before we have a proposal on the board? Because right now, technically, we don't have anything. We're just talking.
Legally, I don't think it's required, but
No,
I'm not the elected one in the room, so
Yeah.
you guys can decide whether you want to have that or not. So
I would just assume that we move forward and get this going, and then the public comment will come when it's time for it.
Yeah.
And the only person I would ask is, now that Misty's here.
Yeah.
Morning.
Good morning.
Morning. And so we have been in discussion on this road, and it's North Buffalo Gap, and it's all on Forest Service property. And if you want to address us briefly, we have just us commission. Yeah.
I would just say, both counties had reached out to me a couple of months ago with looking at what the possibilities might be for some sort of route north of Buffalo Gap. We've taken a preliminary look at this really rough route that you provided. I think generally there aren't any things that we know right now that would be a red flag for us moving forward. We do have one historical site that we may need to work the route around that we know of now. We would expect that once the route has been designed, that we would have surveys that would need to be completed, both archaeology and biology related things that we would need to have completed, and then we would have to go through our regular public process to approve the route. And then I guess the assumption at the end would be that we would want to work with you to have an easement to the two counties for each portion of the road, however it's constructed.
Thank you. Didn't mean to put you on the spot,
No.
but
No,
but
not at all.
you gave your answers and your concerns, and thank you for that. That's kind of what it boils down to, is that we're in the process of just our two boards going to get something going, an RFP on a engineering firm probably, and then they could be in touch with you, and that would help us all decide something in a month or so, what we would go forward with. So I think that's what we're going to do. I feel, do you guys okay with that? And we'll do the public stuff at the next meeting. We just need to get the ball rolling. So.
And And I'm thinking from, and Jared and I can work collectively on this, but today is the 17th, so.
We both have our meeting the same day next month, right?
Well, we wanna have ample time to, when you put out the RFP, to make sure that, because I'm assuming there might be multiple engineering firms that would submit this, so we meet the 3rd. I
No, we
would
meet the
suggest that.
We meet the 12th.
Yeah, we changed March's meeting date.
Oh,
There's too many conflicts.
that's fine.
Okay. I would say that if we have the deadline for the submission, maybe the 2nd or 3rd week of March, that gives ample time for those RFPs to be given back to the county. And then perhaps we have to have some sort of an additional joint meeting to discuss those, where you select the individual or the engineering firm. And then you guys can vote on that and get someone officially on board. And we'd take each county would take a vote on their April meeting, which we have on the 7th, unless I got moved, but.
No, that's good.
I know that may seem like, a month, that's a little bit of a time, but like I said, you want to make sure you're thorough and you give everybody an ample chance to respond and get someone on board. But that would be my recommendation. And plus, we also have to publish it. We would want to do that. We'd want to make sure that we get it out and maybe email it, the auditors email it out to all the engineering firms, so everybody's aware of it. And then we come back with a joint recommendation on who you guys want to hire.
I know that pushes it out a lot longer than I think either county would like to see, but I think in reality, when it comes down to it, trying to make sure that things are fair and equal, anything when it comes to government takes longer than you hope, whether it's local or federal. So, and we are dealing with the Forest Service, so we got to make sure that all of our I's are dotted and T's are crossed.
So do we have a date?
Yep, so I would say that, I don't want to speak for Jared over here, but I would say that we could potentially have a draft proposal for an RFP 1 week from today. I would get that to both auditors, and then we would publish that, depending on publication deadlines. We're looking at maybe the first week of March, and have a deadline for submittals. I would say, I would shoot for March 17th, and that gives you a week and a half to, March is a long month. Maybe let's shoot for the deadline for the submission for the RFP would be March 20th. And then that gives you a full week, 2 weeks-ish, to get the information, review the information, and then potentially what we would look to do is schedule a special meeting between the two counties, either the week of March 23rd or 30th, to review those proposals. And then each county would meet on the 7th and make a motion to move forward, or that motion could be made at that special meeting too. So, but RFP submission would be, the deadline would be March 20th. And then if we can look to schedule a special meeting that week of the 30th, joint meeting where you guys can make a joint recommendation, that would be my suggestion. So if you know, sitting here today, what days or times that week of the 30th we could have a special meeting, that would be something we could get scheduled now.
Are you gonna have 2 proposals or just one county proposal representing both counties?
It would be a joint proposal, joint RFP. I think if we have 2, it's gonna get confusing, and so it would be a joint combined RFP to work on the project on behalf of Billings County and Golden Valley County.
Okay.
So are we, what days are, well, I guess we back up, before we get the cart in front of the horse, we need to find out if we need to get it on record that this is what we want to proceed with, getting a joint RFP. So I'll entertain a motion from the Golden Valley County side to go through with that.
So I will second.
Okay, moved by Bob, seconded by Rory. And any further discussion on that other than setting the dates here, which we will do in a minute? Okay, we'll do a roll call vote. Rory?
Yes.
Bob?
Yes.
Adam? Yes. Motion carries for Golden Valley County.
Okay. Guess we'll entertain a motion to do the same in Billings County. Someone want to make that motion?
I'll move forward with that motion.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any more discussion?
Is
Go ahead.
that appropriate to what you're,
Move forward with the project, please. Is that
Works for me. I
Okay.
think that's what we got.
sure?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay, all right. We have it up there. All those in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. Motion carries.
did you second? Sorry.
Yeah,
Did
I
you?
I second.
Okay.
Okay.
So we're good there. So the next step would be
Set a date.
setting a date for the RFP to be turned in by engineering firms. Is that correct?
So the deadline for the RFP would be March 20th.
So should we put that in our motion? Should we have?
I think that we can do that as part of the RFP process.
Okay.
I don't think that's really necessary, but I think the next step would be for you guys to go ahead and schedule a meeting for the week of March 30th to have a special meeting to open up those
We'll just get
RFPs.
Get off Facebook.
Well, let's just go with March 30th. March 30th.
March 30th is a Monday. I'm
Yeah.
fine. Are you?
Will that work?
Sure.
Sometime in
Okay.
Morning, afternoon,
Will
what
that
works
work
best?
for Forest Service and the Road Department?
Okay.
What? I heard somebody whispering and I didn't know what was going on.
I don't know what you do, but I'm open all afternoon, so
So you want to do afternoon on the
It would-
30th?
be preferable for me, but don't
What's wrong?
schedule it around my
No,
schedule.
that's fine.
So 1 o'clock. yeah, we
You
got
bite,
it for
you bite your fingers.
'Yep.
1 o'clock.
One.
Okay. And then, and the RFP is gonna be a deadline of the 20th, and you guys are gonna get that to our
Yep.
2 counties, and they'll
Okay.
send them out, or will there be one proposal going out?
It will be one
Proposal
proposal,
going out.
and then we get it to both auditors, so it can be published appropriately in both counties, and we'll work with that. And then I think what we would do there is, because it's a joint project, I guess the question would be, and we can work with those 2 ladies on how we want it submitted, if we want submissions to be able to go to both counties, or we would direct them just to go to one county or the other. But we can work out the details between the 4 of us at the ends of the table here on what that's gonna look
Sure.
like, so.
I think you can, that would be good.
When you do your request for proposals, you can ask for multiple copies.
Oh, sure, yep.
And so they could go to each, entity on the boards, so they could have a chance to look at them and study them a little. It's pretty hard to do engineer selection, just, from 5 minutes looking through each one of their proposals. And
But
the process, when you go through with the DOT, you have to, if you're using federal funding, you have to have a scoring system, and it's pretty tedious, and I don't even like going through that process. But I think this has no federal highway thing attached to it, so you guys can look at each opportunity that they're presenting and make your selection based on what you guys see. There's no criteria that this has to be sent into the state highway department and they proof what you did. And then when you're all said and done, after you went through their process, they say, well, you probably should spread it around a little bit. So it just kind of disgusting when you go through that whole process, and it's pretty technical when you have to have a scoring system and rank each one and whatnot. So I think you have a little more latitude here if we're not using federal funding for the project, so, for engineering anyway.
Okay,
We step back a second. March 30th, 1 PM meeting. Is Golden Valley County gonna host that one? So you've hosted this one? Or you wanna just come here? You have nice seats. Just saying.
Doesn't matter.
We don't have all this fancy
Yeah,
stuff, just so
we
you
don't have
know.
the fancy stuff.
It's all right.
Less miles for you.
I can bring it over.
I feel like we're probably better adequate here, but we'd have to bring in a lot of
Thanks,
extra
thanks,
chairs.
Christina.
I'm just saying.
We can
Yeah.
sure have it here, that's
Can we-
fine with here.
Let's do it here.
Okay, do it here.
You got a little bit more room and it's more
Okay.
comfortable
That's
here.
the technology
We'll
that
do
we
it.
don't, so.
Okay.
Okay, so it's at March 30th at 1 o'clock, all right? That'll be our dates. Anything else to bring to the board on this concern today? We'll,
No, I think what I will just plan to do is, between us, once we get a draft proposal, I'll probably have some conversations with Pete to make sure that, we've kind of got everything included in there since he's,
Okay.
has a lot of experience looking at those things, so.
oh wait, no, we're not gonna have no public input, so there's none. So we're gonna do that at a later time with the public. So is there a motion to adjourn the meeting?
I might say one thing to direct it towards the Forest Service on that Knudsen Creek Road. Maybe you weren't here, but I discussed that that's under a Schedule B maintenance agreement and special use permit to the oil companies. Maybe you can give some thought of maybe, and both counties think about it in the interim till you have that special meeting, on putting that on a Schedule A agreement. And then I know in the past we've gotten easements from the Forest Service, as long as time isn't a constraint and you guys have been able to free up some of your engineers to do a general plat and easement for that section of road. Because we build this new road to that, and that doesn't meet a standard either.
Right.
And the oil companies haven't done a real good job of maintaining it, and in the interim, the people are still going to the petrified forest now. And I think we need to address some of the safety issues on there and some of the maintenance issues, because like I said earlier, I've met a tour bus on the roads. And so people are going out there, and that road, you know, needs some dire maintenance on it. And so, and whether Billings County, maybe I'm speaking for them, but for the road department in Golden Valley County, I guess I would entertain that we put that on the Schedule A or something where we have an easement or some permission to maintain it. And, you know, that's up to Billings County, whether on their portion they want that included. I think we had mentioned with Jim and Pat that currently Billings County is maintaining a lot of our portions of West River Road, and for an exchange, we can probably take over the couple miles on the Knudsen Creek Road to the petrified forest, or do it jointly or whatever, but we need that designation in place to be able to do it. So,
Yeah.
you know, our hands are kind of tied to put much money or do anything on it, because we have no guidance on that being our jurisdiction, so.
And I think in our county, on our side of the line, we can have that conversation.
I think we
Forest
can
Service.
too, because that's just an added to what we're discussing today, so I think that,
And we haven't done Schedule A agreements for quite some time, but we are very much open to
okay.
doing that. And so I think that's just a conversation to be had on how we want to proceed. And I guess I would assume if this road goes forward and is constructed and is gonna be county road under easements, then we would want to have the connecting road go that way as well.
Yeah.
Okay. Anything else, Adam? We're good? You guys okay to adjourn then? Or someone want to make a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
So move.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
You guys come do it?
Make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Made and second to adjourn. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay.
Both same sign.
Thank you all. Sorry about the public, but we just had.
Get it. If you do have any comments or anything, feel free to make them to us individually, and we'll take note of it.
Yeah, everybody knows, Seminole Township.